Hello and welcome to the Awakened Feminine podcast. I'm your host, Kaki Lee, a mindset coach and healer who's on a mission to share the love and wisdom of inspiring women from around the world who have gone through adversity and turned their pain into purpose. Today, I am excited to share the love and wisdom of Sandhan Johnson, who is a certified law of attraction and laser coach, a Tony Robbins Senior Leader, a multidimensional entrepreneur and lover of life. She's joining me all the way from the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. Welcome, Sandhan. How are you?
I'm super well, thank you. A beautiful Sunday morning here. The birds are singing and the sun is shining on the Sunshine Coast.
Beautiful. And what a beautiful way to start the day. So, Sandhan, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Before we dive in to your journey, I really love to know, what is your definition of an awakened feminine?
That was supposed to be the last question. It was the one you said at the end, and which has been giving me grey hairs thinking about it. I don't think you can define that. And, for me, one of the things I've always been quite triggered by is even the word awakened. And it was, maybe 10 years ago, before, we went into this craziness and people are really starting to wake up. It became very much the buzzword. It was the marketing word. It was the, awakening and awakened.
Yeah.
And because you will hear that I've spent many years with an enlightened master, awakening always a strange kind of connotation. So when you sent me that question, I was like, ooh, this could open up a whole can of worms. Because, and as I was like, oh, it's going to be the last question, and perhaps everything will kind of stack onto, what is my definition of an awakened woman? I will turn it around slightly and say that the thing that interests me most in the world is bringing the worlds of matter and spirit together. So I think that and I'll also frame that in the sense that right now women are really the ones who are the driving force behind change in the world, I believe. We're the ones, as my master Osho said, women don't start wars. Women are here to make change happen, but they don't do it through fighting and aggression and hustling. And when I see a woman hustling, I can see straight away that she's not in her true feminine. We as women, we flow, we we enact change, we bring about change, and sometimes we need to be strong with that, and we need to be decisive, and we need to be in our masculine energy. But for me, an awakened woman is one who brings masculine and feminine at the right times when it's needed. Sometimes you need to be the mama and nurturing, like I did this morning. I was playing cars with my grandson and making breakfast while my daughter, who's another entrepreneur, went and did something she needed to do. On a Sunday, we both said, entrepreneurs work on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And it's about blending the masculine and feminine, but it's also about bringing spirituality and reverence into whatever we do. So we have jobs, or we are stay-at-home parents, or we work for ourselves, but it's also bringing, for me, an element of grace and reverence. I've just spent 2 weeks cooking for a workshop, and I hope that I brought that quality into the shopping for the food and the thinking about what I was going to prepare for everybody. And that for me is spirituality in action, and that is what an awakened feminine woman is to me, and an awakened masculine man.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a beautiful definition, and also love your different perspective, your different take on what the word awaken means, because I know you've done a lot of work. So yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. And I got goosebumps when you were going through the definition. So it's such a beautiful definition, and it is that blending of that feminine and masculine energy. I think sometimes people go too far into the feminine and everything's just flow, and you need to have it's both. It's that equilibrium and knowing when to use which energy. So that's such a beautiful definition. Thank you. So now I'd love to start sharing your journey. I've already shared that you're a coach, a leader, entrepreneur, and a lover of life. And I went through laser coaching with you, so I know firsthand how amazing you are as a coach.
Oh,
And you helped me so much when I had my coaching session with you. So what I really love to know and love you to share is what led you down this path of coaching and this multidimensional entrepreneurship, right? So yeah, just like I know it's gonna be a long, maybe quite a long journey, but maybe just give us the most important or the most the pieces that you think will be very healing or impactful for other people to hear.
So I guess why I became a coach, actually, no, I'm going to backtrack again because I grew up in quite a straight family in the UK. You might hear from my accent that
Yeah.
I was born in England. But my parents weren't like traditionally English. My father's lineage was kind of refugee, Russian, Jewish. So we weren't like classically British on that side. And that was a huge trip for my dad. I don't think he ever quite came to terms with the fact that he wasn't just accepted into, you know, the mainstream. British people can be very cliquey and snobby and class conscious, and yeah, even now I haven't been there for years. But and then my mum was a refugee from behind the Iron Curtain as well. So I grew up in this family that was desperately trying to fit in. You know, we lived in a bourgeois kind of street with other bourgeois kind of business owner parents and stuff. My dad was a businessman, he had his own business. But there was a point when pretty early on where I was just like, oh my God, if this is it, you know, if what's expected of me is to get married to a nice Jewish lawyer and have 2.2 children and be a housewife, this is not going to work for me. And I'm not sure if it was a conscious thing, but I started to rebel. And I went down the path of pot smoking, and, you know, because we're talking late 60s, early 70s, because I'm getting on in years. And yeah, just started to smoke dope, experiment with what was being experimented with in the 60s and 70s. People were just starting to rebel, to question, to ask, you know, is this it? To really poke a finger, if you like, at the norms, at the status quo. And I was in the middle of all that. I just went, oh no. And then I didn't really realize that I was looking for something, although I started, and you know, some people might be terribly offended by this, but you know, with Ouija boards and just wanting to talk to the unknown, wanting to get messages from the other side, because I just knew that there had to be more than just this linear kind of thing. And then one day I had a card reading with a guy just out of the newspaper. I was like, I want someone to teach me this stuff. I want to understand. I didn't know what metaphysics were, but
Yeah.
I wanted to understand more about the unseen. And so I was like, I need to find someone. I wanted to learn astrology and, you know, the basic stuff in a way. Not that astrology is basic, but, and then, so this guy said, you're looking for a master. And I'm like, yeah, you know, teacher, master,
Yeah.
and you will find that master. And he gave me a specific time frame and everything, and your life will never be the same again. Okay, right. So I get married. I think, yeah, I was already with a guy, and we got married and moved away and started our little life. We had a small holding in Devon in England, and you know, tried really hard. We were sort of alternative, but we were still, you know, relative, not mainstream, but you know, wasn't full on crazy yet. And then we met a neighbor, and he said, oh, we're having like a weekend workshop, and if you'd like to come along. And I'm very much shortening the story, but we went and met this guy and did this workshop, and it was like, oh my God, this guy was the most amazing guy I had ever met in my whole life. He was so clear and so articulate, so perceptive, you know, in the way he ran the training. And he had a whole bunch of, you know, leaders with him. But the way he could pinpoint and be clear and direct without being hurtful or painful, I was like, oh my God, this guy is amazing.
Yeah.
And then I went, but this guy is a disciple of this other guy.
Yeah.
And that was it. And so we're talking 1980. I come across the enlightened master Osho, and I go, this is what I've been looking for. And so I go, oh great, you know, I've arrived. That's it.
Yeah.
Realizing that was just the beginning of the whole journey. That was where it started. But I also realized at that time that there was some tinge of wouldn't it be amazing to work with people? Wouldn't it be amazing to do what this guy does? Wouldn't it be amazing to run workshops, to help people transform? And it kind of grew from there. And I've always been the kind of person, I'm always interested in serving people. Possibly in a way it's shifted now as I've got older, but there was a time when I was just so passionate about really helping people out of their shit.
Yeah.
And they'd come to me and sit around the kitchen table, and I'd have endless hours of listening to people's relationship problems. Now I'm more laser focused because we know how to do it in, hey, give us your story and we'll fix it, or we'll not fix it, but we'll help you unravel it and find a solution in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the story.
Wow. That's really cool. So I want to probably get you to unpack your, I guess, what you call awakening with Master Osho, because that seemed to be the start of everything. So what was that like for you, and what did it bring up, and what did it change within you?
Oh my God, it changed like you said, my life would never be the same again, because, okay, from that moment, I had had a taste of something. This guy, listening in the course of the workshop that we did, there'd be little snippets of this man Osho talking, and he has the weirdest voice. If you go and, listen on YouTube, he's Indian and he's sometimes very hard to understand, but it's never about the words, it's about the transmission. And he calls it the transmission of the lamp. You hear it, you're called, it's an experience, it's nothing to do with the head. So, I was called, and so was my husband at the time. We heard the call. He went off to India. I, by that time, was pregnant with our daughter, and I'd had a miscarriage, and it just didn't seem to be a cool idea to go to India, which was where Osho was.
Yeah.
And he came back with a new name, and something of what happens in the initiation process when we became disciples was to be given, not choose, but be given a new name, which was symbolic of leaving the old behind and having like a rebirth, if you like. Yeah. So I did mine by mail order. Don't know exactly
mail order.
I always joke about that, but it kind of was, he went off to India and had the experience, and I wrote my letter and said, this has touched my heart and I want to be initiated. And then you go again, that's it, the letter arrived, my new name, our friend Sandhan, and what it means: seeker, inquiry, investigation into the nature of love. Yeah. Like, that's really cool. Yeah. Don't know what that means at all. People would say, so do you know what that is? And I'd go, no, but I can tell you what it isn't. And so my journey of unraveling and unpacking all of that stuff is, I know what love isn't. How do I find what it is? And I still don't know what it is. How do you know what real love is? I think real love is a state of being. It's not something you do. It's a quality that you bring to the world. So you can't put that into words. So I've probably digressed a little bit, but being with Osho, then it really, God, it threw everything up. It was like, so there we are, and we've got a small holding in Devon, and we don't have much money, and it's really hard work, and some of the time it's fun, and then a daughter comes along, and and the relationship is strained, and we were very young, and nobody taught us about how to have a good relationship, and you couldn't go and buy a self-help book on relationship. You could go to the marriage guidance council, but they didn't really cater for people like us. Yeah. And so we would also go to, by this time Osho had gone to America and had set up a huge community there. And so we went and I saw Osho over there. And so the heart is like, I want to live like this. And the day-to-day reality is I'm living like this, and it's not making my heart sing. And it pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled till one day, several years later, they say you make a decision overnight, but it can take 10 years. Yeah. I sat on the sofa in another house by then, and much water had flown down Ganges. And I just went, oh my God, if this is it for the rest of my life, I might as well be dead. It
Yeah.
was like, Paul on the road to Damascus. It was like the epiphany. And I went, okay, that's it. I got to do something, because, I don't know how other people are, but I was sort of waiting for my knight in shining armor to come along and whisk me away and say, hey, honey, I'll make it all right. And he was bloody not coming, And so eventually I had to take absolute responsibility for what I wanted and just say, I'm going to India. I have to go. I'm called.
Yeah.
And it was, I had met Osho in the body, not like handshaking, but I'd seen him alive in America. But it was actually only October, 3 months before he actually died. So I went to India and spent probably the next 10 years on and off there.
Yeah.
Going through, and people think, I don't know if people even understand what an ashram is, but an ashram is a community of disciples, seekers, people, seekers are gathered around an enlightened being, or even if the enlightened being is no longer there, it's a kind of, a circle, if you like, or I don't know how to describe it, but I hope you get the sense.
Yeah.
And so I spent 10 years on and off there, and it was not just a place where you kind of sat, omming and, sitting on a meditation cushion. So you could do that. It was very much a therapeutic community where you could learn skills, you could learn massage, you could learn craniosacral, you could learn, I don't even know, color puncture, the various healing modalities, but you could also do some very deep personal transformation work, some of the best in the world.
Wow.
So that's what I dedicated my life to for 10 years. And then at the same time, ran a meditation center in the south of France. And that's a whole other story.
Wow. I just love your journey. So I want to ask you then, I know you said you've always felt this calling to help people all the time. So what made you decide to really go down that coaching path and go learn and become that law of attraction coach, that laser coach, that, with Tony Robbins, you're a senior leader, so you would have done coaching with him as well. So what led you down that path
Because once Osho had left the body, which was in like 1990, I was there on and off for the next 10 years. And then there just came a point where I was like, okay, I'm done with this. He's not here anymore. And when he left the body, he said, I will be dispersed among my people. And it's true, the night that he died, we're all going, oh, this is like the end of the world. It would be like Catholics thinking the Pope's died, or, bad analogy. But, it's like, it's very dramatic.
Yeah.
And yet we all felt so amazing the next day. So I still was there for about 10 years, but then it was just done. And I'm like, okay, I'm going back to spend more time in the West, and I'm not going to spend my life backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. I've done every personal development program I could do here. And when I got back to the West, I had some money, but I also realized that Osho didn't kind of equip us for being in the material world. He would say, be in the world, but not of it. But how do you do that? How do you be in the world and be a meditator and be a spiritual being, which is why I'm so passionate about bringing that, and why Osho would talk about Zorba the Buddha, the new man. The new man was to him to be a fusion of the, like I said, the grace and the meditation and the depth and silence of a Buddha, while being like Zorba the Greek, who was just full on into the hedonism and the passion of squeezing the juice from life. And I had no idea how to make money in the marketplace. And I hadn't been, employed in some job as a banker. I mean, I'm freaking unemployable, basically. I have no skills that an employer theoretically would say, oh, great, we'll pay you $100,000 a year and sit you in an office. Yeah. Besides which I would go bonkers. I'd stick it for a couple of months and then I would be like, I'm not getting enough appreciation. I'm putting it, I'm not very employable. And so I figured that I really needed to find a way to make money. And so with my meditation center, that was in the south of France, and I started to, I didn't run workshops, but I had friends would come, because every person I ever met in India was a group leader or a workshop leader
Yeah.
or a therapist. So we had them all come down, and I'd do some marketing and get people to come to the house, and I'd do the cooking, and we'd have a great old time. But then I realized I just need to make money. I actually looked at my life and went, what are my money making skills? Zero. Okay. And the reason that I went to do, I sort of darted around a bit, but I went to spend time with Tony Robbins in his workshops, because he's so pragmatic, he's so practical, he's all about, money mindset, and Osho is all about, just meditate. And I'm like, so I really wanted to learn more about understanding how my mind works.
Yeah.
You can't meditate your way out of a mental mind fuck, excuse my French, but when you're in up here, you can't meditate. That's the problem with most Westerners, and why Osho devised some very intense cathartic meditations, because Westerners are sitting there trying to, stop the clouds going across the sky, and they're going nuts.
Yeah.
So it really was a question of finding a way to dive into my own mind and understand it. And from there, as I started to lose a lot of money in the global financial crisis, then I came across this amazing law of attraction. Okay, I seem to be attracting a load of stuff I don't want into my life. Yeah. Maybe I need to go and learn about this stuff to help me, basically. But at the end of it, there was also a certification. So, and then from there, I've realized that that's kind of limited. It was great along the way, but I think now we've moved beyond the law of attraction. Yeah, it's a good foundation to stuff, but it's so much more subtle as we move into higher levels of consciousness. Yeah. So then I just thought, okay, this laser coaching thing sounds good, because you can do it in 20 minutes and you can really help someone. And so that was the next place that I went. Yeah. Long answer, sorry.
No, it's beautiful. I just find your journey so fascinating, because obviously, I mean, I've had coaching sessions with you and we've chatted before, but not like this, right?
So I know my story.
Yeah, I love it. I love your story. So, actually, I want to ask you, because this just popped into my head as you were talking. So, as when you were with Osho and you were in the ashram and things like that, how did you, where was your daughter? Did you bring her with you, or?
Oopsie. Well, there are those who would say I hadn't been a great mother, but since I'd been brought up going to an English boarding school and spent very little time with my parents in my life, and they were not happy when they divorced, but they stayed together way past the time they should have split up. I figured that I really wanted to give my daughter, like all parents want to give their children what they didn't have. Yeah. And so I wanted to give my daughter more freedom, and I could see that education system, even then, I mean, now it's just, I don't know what people are going to do. And, so many people have decided to homeschool. But I just wanted to give her more freedom. And along with many parents who were disciples of Osho, we set up our own school in England, and it was a lunatic asylum. It was just insane. You got like these wild children, because in our opinion at the time, and probably still so, I believe, the word educate is to draw out of a child what's inherently there. Yeah. So you want to encourage their artistic, creative abilities. You want to encourage their musical skills. You want to help them discover who they are. And, sticking history and geography and, they need to learn maths and stuff, but, you can spell with spell check these days. Mm-hmm. So we set up this school where it was a boarding school, and they learned all sorts of things outside of a normal curriculum, because they still had to have, the basic curriculum to be allowed to be certified as a school in the UK, and went through all the hoops to make sure that happened. But they lived as a community. These kids lived as a community. They learned to cook. Every meal time, there'd be 3 or 4 kids and 2 adults preparing the lunch. and the dinner, and it would be on rota, and they do that with the laundry, and and on some level it all worked really well. I found a video the other day, must have been on YouTube, that was from 20 years ago, maybe more. I was like, wow, it was so amazing. It was so unique, and it was an experiment.
Yeah.
And my daughter has come out. Funnily enough, we were even talking last night that she, again, you want what you didn't have. So, her thing probably was to get married, have kids, settle down, have a nice house, live a straight existence, because her life had been so alternative, if you like. And then she was saying yesterday how strange it is. She's just joined a company that sells oils, essential oils, and that kind of stuff, ditch and switch, and all natural products. And she said, here I am, Mum, and I've gone completely the other way. I'm getting all my crystals out again. I was like, okay, and I think that's all part of this thing of finding the balance again, of being all things. If we come back to the awakened feminine, it's allowing the light and the dark, the spiritual and the material, the crazy and the grounded. And I think we spend far too much time thinking how we should be and pushing stuff away. I mean, you probably got by now, I have had a fairly wild past, but I embrace that. I embrace my anger. I embrace my bitch. I embrace my judge, because they're all parts of me. I love having a good old gentleman fest every now and then, because, I own it. There's lots that you can judge right now going on in the world. And I really like to let her rip sometimes, because it's almost like it frees me up to let more love in.
Yeah, it's like having that vent. Because you get all that pressure, and then you just let it out, and it's gone. Exactly. Yeah, and I just love that, and I just love how your daughter's gone from this, the free childhood to going down that really. This is the have the 2.2 kids, all those kind of things. And now going back around and going, actually, I want to bring that free part of me back into my life as well.
And she spent a lot of time in India as well, because all those kids basically were the kids of disciples of Osho. And most of those parents wanted to be spending around the Christmas period in India, because that's the perfect time to be there, climate-wise and stuff. So there was a lot of people, and our kids would all come on a plane together. And hang out in the ashram and, hang together. And I was going to say, one of the beauties of that is that she's still close friends, as am I, with many, many of the kids that she went to school with. They're like brothers and sisters. It's not just, I went to school with so-and-so. This is like, in 20 years' time, when they have a reunion, well, they periodically do have reunions. A school reunion with those kids is just something to behold. And we had festivals every summer. We like to raise money for the school, because it was an independent school. We do the Coastline Summer Festival, and friends would come, musicians. I don't know if anyone knows of David Pramal and Miten, but Miten was a teacher at the school and very accomplished, beautiful musician. And we cooked food for 300 people for the weekend, and they were beautiful days. I wouldn't have missed it for anything.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, because they all lived. You guys all lived together, so that connection is just so different to when you just go to the school. And because you didn't have to worry about all the material stuff, it really was building that heart connection, rather than, oh, what is she wearing, or oh, she's got new makeup, or those kind of things, which is what happens at school nowadays, right? And then
I don't know too much about school nowadays, because toddlers are not at school yet. But there was also other things like stealing. They'd have something would disappear, someone's money would disappear, or a pair of shoes would disappear, and then the whole school would be there. There'd be 70 or 80 kids and adults, and they'd have a school meeting, and there would be no punishments per se. but the whole school would be in lockdown until the person owned up and kind of, how do you micromanage children when you're trying to show them another way that isn't the traditional way, but still have some discipline?
Yeah.
I mean, God, I would not have liked to have been a teacher there.
Yeah, I cannot be a teacher. I love teachers because I think they are amazing. So Sandhan, I just love your journey. I love all the stories that you shared about your life so far. Can you share with us in this moment, in this current chapter of your life, what is your personal mission?
Interesting enough, I was at a thing called Conscious Leaders a few months ago, and we all had to stand up and share our mission. And people were like, I'm going to set up a community for, adolescents and young girls, and, I'm going to do this. I was like, my mission really is to support other missions in a way. I've got past that thing of going, that drive that you have maybe in your 40s of I'm going to go and make my mark. I don't really have that anymore, but my mission is to be a good human and to make impact, and my impact is to help other people make impact.
Yeah.
It's kind of switched a little bit more, and so I'm very fascinated by the idea of conscious currency. I certainly believe that there's enough money in the world for everybody to have enough, and that if we rely on governments to give their handouts to the people who actually need it, you can see now, I don't know who is going to listen to this, but I am totally against the idea of mandatory vaccinations, of a vaccine that will not have been properly tested, will probably be very ineffective, and more than likely will do more harm than good. And there's more elements to that, and we could have a whole conversation. But the idea of spending, like $6 billion on a bunch of vaccines to give to people who don't want it, and force them to take it, what could that $6 billion do? Okay, if we rely on our governments to spend money wisely, we might as well all just roll over and die. So my mission is to help people make enough money that they have overflow so they can share, so that they can set up their beautiful communities in the mountains and, grow their own food, or they can set up a homeschooling academy, or send their children to daycare, set up some beautiful daycares where children don't need to be vaccinated in order to go. I mean, we are on the cusp of creating a whole new world if we do this wisely and communally and intelligently, and we can do it without too much hierarchical infighting. That people can actually rise above and say, okay, now we have an opportunity to do something beautiful because this is what the universe has given us. It's given us an opportunity to effect massive change, but we need money to do it. Yeah. So my mission is to help people create enough money that we can distribute it wisely and purposefully.
Yeah, I love that. And just talking I love your mission, and just with vaccine, I'm a pharmacist, as you know, but I'm a pharmacist, and for me, even when I speak to all my pharmacy friends, none of them want to take the vaccine. So when you think about it, when you've got healthcare professionals that are like, I don't want to take this COVID vaccine, I don't know, there's it just hasn't been, it's brand new, right? So we don't know. It's not been tested enough. It's been pushed through.
Vaccine. There is not an effective flu vaccine, and they've been, it's been around since, I don't know, the 80s or the 90s.
Yeah.
So it still doesn't work, and yet you're talking. And the only time I ever had flu was when I had the flu vaccine. So we're not going to go down that route.
Yeah.
However,
but it's so it's, I don't know, if they make it mandatory, there will be a lot of
there'll be a
lot of
civil war.
Yeah, but this is not about that. But I just wanted to mention it because even healthcare professionals that I've spoken to are but anyways, let's keep going.
I'm going to say you can have a conversation without that coming up. It's like the elephant in the room, not just the vaccines, but everything that's going on. Hey, it's so funny. I'm just sitting in my daughter's room here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Can you see that?
Yeah.
That was me in 1981
Wow.
with my daughter. So she's
Oh,
got that. She's got that sitting here. I don't have my photo taken that often, so that's a rare photo of me.
that's a
That
beautiful
she's just
photo.
got on. That's cool. She was a sweet little baby.
Yeah. I wasn't alive back then in 1981. I was alive the year after. So so then I want to ask you, do you want to go deeper with you? Was there a particular experience that you've been through that you found really the most challenging but led to your biggest breakthrough?
Oh my God. There's been quite a few, but obviously the most recent one was with the global financial crisis, because I had inherited some money from my family, although the relationship with them was very strained. My dad had written a will years prior. Actually, he had set up some money years prior, and he couldn't change that, even though my relationship with Osho basically tore my relationship with my dad apart. So I had inherited some money and I had a beautiful house. And the first experience with that, this is in the south of France, was the house got flooded. So that probably wouldn't be the one that would be the most dramatic, although it was very dramatic. I really had to find resources within to get through the experience and rebuild the house because it was pretty much destroyed. I'd only been there for a week when I found myself, with a meter of water in the house, and the stuff I just bought and put in the house it was pretty dramatic. But the thing that really has changed my life was losing everything. So we've got the global financial crisis in about 2010, 11.
Yeah.
I lost my house, I lost all my money, I got some quite serious health challenges at the same time, and just navigating my way through that. And then again, one of the reasons with the laser coaching was like, okay, I'm a good coach, I'm a great coach. How can I turn that skill into a way of making some money? And then I've become an online marketer. I also had a podcast for a while, which I'm probably going to revive eventually. Just ways of sharing more of who I am that I probably would never have done had I just been, plonking along, living my nice kind of bulletproof life.
Yeah.
I say to people, they say, what would you like to do? If money was no object, I'm like, I'd lie on a beach and do nothing. And they go, yeah, but you can do that now. No, I can't, because I actually have to keep generating an income. There isn't. Yesterday, we lay in the garden on a rug on the grass, looking up at the palm trees. I was like, God, I cannot remember the last time I took half an hour to do this.
Yeah.
Which is bad, because the awakened feminine would probably spend more time doing something like that. But there's always stuff to do.
Yeah.
So the biggest experience for me was losing everything. It was very humbling.
Yeah.
It was very much about learning to receive.
Mm.
It was very much about trusting. Like the last couple of months, I've been staying with a friend who opened up her door to me. I mean, I have some money, but I don't have like pots at this point. And just opening up her door to me and saying, come and stay, and letting the next door open and trusting that. That's like the biggest experience in anyone's life, is being out of control. Is that the feminine, it's like she can't flow when she's trying to control everything. So just to allow that thing and just go, do you know what? I trust that the universe has my back.
Yeah.
And it's been the hardest lesson of all.
Yeah.
Prayer.
Yeah. Wow. That's really such a beautiful story that you've learnt, I mean, I think when we're in the situation, it's always the worst, but hindsight is always good for us to really learn the lessons and, okay, what was it that happened and how do we move forward with our lives and what did we learn from it, right?
Well, I view every experience is a learning lesson, because otherwise, what was the point? You just end up with the lesson comes around again, and usually it's 10 times worse.
Yeah.
The universe said, we didn't get it last time. We'll just give it to you, and you were going to make it more difficult until you get the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm still learning that stuff. It's like have moments of like, oh, I can feel myself in a bit of anxiety here. I was like, okay, just watch it. Oh, I'm a bit anxious right now. What can I do? Oh, go drink some water, have a walk around the block, look at the trees. Anxiety comes and goes, but anxiety is always future paced. Anxiety is always looking into the future and worrying. Anxiety isn't here now. Anxiety is, well, this is a beautiful space. My
Yeah.
daughter's going aesthetic. It's like,
Yes, exactly. I love that. So I want to ask you, Sandan, with you were just talking about, anxiety and you're still a work in progress. Like everyone, it's always a work in progress. You're always learning lessons, and things come up where you would feel down in the dumps for a little while and you'll bring yourself out again. But what are some of the tools or the teachers that are really helpful when you get into those states and to bring yourself back out?
I think I might have asked a similar question in a Facebook post the other day, just trying to engage people in conversation. And I don't know, it's just watching, just catching yourself, and you hear the voices. I don't necessarily have the voices, but I certainly can feel sometimes in my body. I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh, and then just go, okay, what's that? What is that? It's the investigation. What is that? Okay, just let it be there. I feel I'm a bit shaky this morning, or, and quite often we're also subject to this whole collective soup that's going on. Sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh, it doesn't feel like mine this morning. I can feel that there's a bit of a ripple in the vortex somewhere, or but just watching. And yeah, you can go and meditate, but meditation in the traditional sense ain't going to do anything. Go and do something nice for yourself. Go and have a massage, or go and cook, go and garden, go and walk on the beach, go and hug a child, go and play with your grandkids for a while. I mean, just anything that takes you out of your head. But great techniques are things like gibberish. You just kind of just go and have a good scream for a while. And, I did a retreat recently with a lady, and I was teaching people some of Osho's meditations, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's so many different tools.
Yeah, beautiful.
Not being very helpful. If anybody wants specific tools, they can kind of reach out to me, and I can possibly help them with that. So,
and
get a coach. If you really stuck in something, what an idiot I am! Of course, get a coach.
Yeah, but really, I think, as you were saying, it just starts off with being aware. So that's self-awareness, because a lot of times most people aren't self-aware, or when we're talking about learning lessons, a lot of people don't learn the lessons, so they wonder why things keep happening to them because they're not learning the lessons.
They think that it's all from the outside, and I was that person too. Why is this happening to me? Well, that's a really good question, because you're a dickhead, basically, and you keep creating the same story.
Yeah.
And question, how can I stop this happening to me? Okay, a moment of self-awareness, and then it starts to flip.
Exactly. And I think we've all been that dickhead where it was like everyone is always someone else, right? And even knowing that is not someone else, sometimes you just want to blame that someone else because it makes you feel better. But then when you bring that self-awareness, is like, well, actually it's not them, it's me. And then you work through it.
But there's always one common denominator. Oh, who's the common denominator? Oh, it's me.
Yeah. So, Sandan, I love reading. I'm not sure if you're an avid book reader as well, but are there any particular books that have really made a big impact in your life?
Oh God, I'm not actually really a book reader. I'm one of those people that has like 7 books on the go, and they're all business books and personal development books, and I'll take a bit from here and a bit from there. I'm not a great reader.
Yeah.
I really have to say.
Yeah. That's cool.
No.
Nothing.
People say, you should read this book, and I'm like, yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But off the top of my head, I mean, it's another terrible thing, but I'm sort of so in the moment that it's hard to think back to a book that I read that was like, yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
So Sorry, can't help you.
That's all right. That's probably a good thing because my list is as long as my arm at the moment, so I probably
I've
don't
got
need
books. I've got so
extra
many books.
books.
I have so many books I haven't read. I was
Yeah.
like, or just thumbed through. I bring books, like I brought books with me to my daughters. I'm like, why are you carrying these bloody books around? You know you're not going to read them. You know you're not going to go to bed and read a book.
Yeah. Or you might read one and then you jump to like all the other ones,
A
right?
book that I totally loved, which is not personal development or anything like that, was Shantaram. And
Okay.
everybody talked about this book. You've probably never heard of it, but it was a hugely fat novel
Yeah.
that's semi-autobiographical of a guy that lived in India and his story. And it was the hypey book. It was a bit like the Elizabeth Gilbert of
Oh yeah.
novels, and everybody talked about it. It's like, oh God, what's the hype about this thing? And then I thought, oh, I might as well give it a go. And I could not put it down. I was working for somebody at the time where I had hours of time when I didn't need to be doing something. I just had to be there and present. I was caring for my friend's dad,
Yeah.
and he would come downstairs and read the paper, and I would read chapter after chapter of this book. Amazing, especially for anybody who has an affinity with India and has been there. Amazing book.
There you go.
That
You've given me a book recommendation.
I was going to say it probably won't change your life, but it was so well written that if you know anything of India, you could feel it, you could smell it. It's just a brilliantly written book. And so I have the sequel, and I have had that sequel for probably 7 years since it came out, and I have not read it yet. It's as fat as the other one, and I'm like, oh God, I need time. That's why I want to lie on a beach with a book, because that's when I really enjoy reading a book. Is just
when it's not I should or I have to read that.
I'm on holiday. When I'm on holiday. So I'll know when I've made it, because I'll be on holiday and I'll be reading the book.
Yeah, you'll be on the beach continuously. So Sandhan, I want to ask you, if you could time travel and go back to a younger version of yourself, what is the piece of advice that you would like to give to yourself?
Invest more wisely. Don't think you know it all. And probably practice more gratitude. I'm fairly certain that the reason that I lost so much money was because I did not understand the practice of gratitude. And even now, they say keep a gratitude journal. And I don't sit down and practice daily gratitude in terms of writing stuff down. But again, when you said what's a practice, just remembering that, I'm looking out the window here. It is a beautiful day. I'm sitting in a beautiful part of the world. We are not in lockdown. Nobody has to wear a mask. You would not know anything was going on in the outside world when I look outside my window. And I have beautiful friends and beautiful people and my life ahead of me. And so those are the things that I would tell my younger self is, it all works out in the end, even the hurdles and the challenges. And, here we go. She is, it all works out in the end. She was pretty cool. She's still pretty cool.
She is still pretty cool. I think she's probably more cool now.
I'll tell you something actually, that aging is a bitch, basically. I don't want to upset any of your awakened feminines, but as far as me is concerned, I am not enjoying getting older particularly. I look at the grey hair and the different health things that come up. I mean, I'm pretty healthy, but there's things. And I was saying to my daughter, you know what? I look in the mirror these days and I really find it hard to love myself. I know they say, look in the mirror and say, I love you, I love you, I love, I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, I look like my aunt, and I criticize this and that. And my daughter said, you know what? I think it kind of shook her a bit. And just think of all the wisdom and all the stuff, Mum. You're such a wise woman. And so then that again is the polarity and the paradox of you get older and the body starts to displease you and it doesn't obey, and it's like, oh, there's extra kilos, and then you look on the other side and you go, God, but I've got some scar tissue and some grace has come through all of that journey.
Yeah.
And I think it gives you also a greater appreciation of other older people. You look
Yeah.
at them, they're obviously, they watch their bodies wasting away, or,
Yeah.
somebody who's got some self-awareness must look at it and go, God, I hate getting older. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't think if you're a awakened feminine that you would get offended by what you said, because you're being real. That's a part of life, and that's exactly how we all feel. I mean, I'm 38 this year, and I'm blessed that I kind of got the genes from my dad's side, where he doesn't have any white. He didn't get white hair until I think he was way into his 60s. But like, I think I found white hair the other day, like one, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I have white hair. But that's, and you can flip it and go, well, that's because I've gained all this wisdom, right? So just like you said, it's
well, I tried that thing. I was going, okay, I'm going to grow out the grey, and I did it for a few months, and then I was like, oh no, I can't do that. If it was uniform, maybe, but I was like, no. That's
Yeah.
one of my little luxuries. Like, some women get Botox and fillers and nails, and I can live without any of that, but the grey hair, no.
Yeah. 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 My husband, on the other hand, has lots of gray hair, but he just wants to grow it all out so that he has that, really cool. It's really cool when you have that full gray, like, salt and pepper kind of look.
Depending on how it grows out.
Yeah,
It
it
is not
does.
my regrowth there. So, excuse me.
Yeah. So, all good. So, I'm just loving our conversation, Sandhan. But I want to ask you. This year has been especially a crazy year for a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that are, looking for new businesses, or their businesses had to change, and all those kind of things. Or people might be looking at their life and going, "All right, what do I need to do to make change and be recession proof or whatever proof, right?" So, and of course, change brings a lot of fear, or there's a lot of limiting beliefs. What are some recommendations you have for those people who know they need to make changes but are too scared because being in that comfort zone is more comfortable?
Brilliant question. Da-da! Now you're talking my language. Reach out to me, because I do have a solution. And I said to you that in the past, I was already working online, because I knew that somewhere the internet was the way to go. So I had a membership site with another lady, and we were blogging and sharing our info, and had a podcast. And somehow we just never managed to monetize it. So I already had a kind of a background and an intuition that, if I could just crack the code with the internet, there was money to be made. And I think, what we're talking about right now, you said recession proof, that we need to be in charge of our own income. And somebody might say, the internet, you're not really in charge of that. I'm sure if the internet goes down, yeah, we're not in charge of that. But I have a business that I use the internet, but it is not only dependent on that. I can do the business, face to face with somebody, but I can leverage the power of the internet to reach people anywhere in the world. So I am able to show people how to do what I do. I can hear somebody say, oh yeah, but you know how to use the internet. Yeah, that's been something that's been helpful, because the big there's panic going on outside. It's been helpful, because in the best instance was actually recognizing when I could see something that had legs, that has worth, that is something that is unique, and has possibilities. But there are people who have joined me who know nothing about the internet, who don't really use social media, and who I am able to help build something colossal. So that's my thing, of helping others make impact themselves. My impact is to impact others. but I use a platform that is basically like an online university. It teaches people to do what we do. So you can come from nowhere land, totally feeling nervous, that, oh, this is a big stretch, this is out of my comfort zone, I don't know how to do this. And we literally take you holding your hand like sort of, handheld diving, scuba diving. We'll hold your hand, we'll walk you through the system, we'll show you everything you need to know, we'll point you in the direction, and while you're moving until you take off the training wheels, we are there and beyond, even with the training wheels. So I'm being a bit cryptic. I'm not telling people exactly what it is, but as they say, I can't give you a haircut over the phone. So if somebody's interested to know more, we are here changing thousands and thousands and thousands of lives. And we're an amazing community, because obviously from what I've said, community is a huge thing for me. Being with like-minded people who are not here to bitch and pull down. Tall poppy syndrome is very prevalent in, the USA, England, Australia. When somebody is successful, pulling them down, we are here to rise up together. And that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, love that. And I know a few people also from your community, and I've seen what you guys do, and it is very, very amazing. So
well, there's space for you.
So, Sandhan, let's take a little bit of a turn. I'm all about self-love because that was a big part of my learning process on my journey. So, as a awakened feminine, what are your top 3 go-to activities to ensure you really give yourself that self-love that you deserve?
Get enough sleep.
Yeah.
That's a huge one. Just you can't run on an empty tank. Sleep, really boundaries.
Yeah.
Learning to say no. I mean, I came from a society where, especially my mother, she was such a doormat. And towards the end of her life, when she really was, dying, this bitch came out. I'm like, who's this bitch? And it was the bitch that had never said no, I think. That was just, I love everybody, and, love yourself first. That means sometimes you got to be okay with saying no to people and saying yes to yourself. Now, that sounds a bit vague, but that's another thing you can learn through coaching with Kaki or me. It's like, how do you learn to say no and not feel guilty? Just play, have fun. Life, one of the quotes, I always thought it was Osho, but it's apparently not his, but life is a mystery to be lived. It's not a problem to be solved. Stop, seriousness is such a disease. Dance, have fun, eat good food, drop with the shoulds.
Stop shooting all over yourself.
I love
I love that, because it's so true. We just put so much shoulds on ourselves that we don't play and
do what you enjoy.
And that's also the should thing is also part of the boundaries which you're talking about, because we should do that, but okay, who's telling you the should? Who's putting that should on you? You are, right? Because you're not setting your boundaries.
So I got into some terrible shit over my life, and I used that because one of the things is I'm not a nappy changer. It's one of my boundaries. I don't like changing nappies. I've been there, I've done it, and they're not my kids. But oh my goodness, that has created a lot of trouble. But it's a boundary, and it's not an exclusive boundary.
So I want to ask you, before we wrap up, what is really setting your soul on fire? You've mentioned it a few times, but just what is it that is really setting your soul on fire?
I love this, actually, this talking to people, because we don't know what impact we're going to have through the people who are going to listen to this at some point or watch it. I don't know if you keep it. Visual video. So how do we know who's going to find one thing that we said and go, oh my goodness, reach out to you or me, and we have some sessions with them, or they send somebody else to talk to us, or somebody says, I'm interested in your business, or that can impact me, but it can impact 10 people down the road who we've never even met.
Yeah.
I love this. I love interviewing people. I love being interviewed. You know, people have always said, oh, you know, you're so wise. I'm like, oh, really? But somewhere the easiest way to transmit wisdom is in a conversation like this. Like, I'm in the throes of writing a book, because I don't know if you remember from when we first met, I'd written a chapter in a book, which is okay, it was a good start. But the challenge with that was that the editor then really kind of reworked your words or my words. I was like, yeah. And so a friend of mine has invited me to join a group that she's running and write my story. I'm like, okay.
Oh, wow.
Because
I'll be buying that book.
She said, oh, just go into Facebook and just take some of the stories that you've written and stick them all in, and, you know, and then pad it out. It'll be fun, because I have led an unconventional life. I was taking that thing from The Hobbit, which is called an unexpected journey, I think it's called. An unexpected life.
Yeah.
You know, I did not know that my life would end up like this. And sometimes, you know, you say, what would you say to your younger self? Sometimes I look back and I was like, oh my God, I just wish I'd been normal. But I see people who are normal struggling because all they want to do is break out of the box. And then, you know, so I'm here to help people break out of the box, because it's time to live wild and free.
I love that. And I mean, I was one of those normal people. I got taught to follow the rules and, you know, get married, go to uni, get a job, have kids, and that's it. But then it was, my soul was just like, no, that's not it. You have to do more. So this is why I'm doing everything that I'm doing as well. So really, I think also, I just love what's setting your soul on fire, but you just kind of got me thinking that I think a lot of people have this expectation of what their life looks like, and
should look like,
like this is the milestones that I'll reach, and I'll reach them at this age and at this time. But like what you're saying, you had no idea what your life was going to look like. And none of us do, because we don't know for the next second what would happen. So it's really just letting go of that expectation and just enjoying the journey.
I think you just need to do what makes you happy and do more of it.
Yeah.
The world needs happy people. It doesn't need miserable people doing stuff, you know, and this year, if it's shown us anything, is like, you know, doing the rote, what everybody's doing, and, you know, being good people is not going to help humanity.
Yeah.
Be a good person, but be a good person by following what gives you joy.
Yeah, as you said, this year has shown, I think, definitely, it's just that all the suppression of ourselves is just coming to the surface, and all that fear is just.
Isn't it great though? Because people don't realize how repressed they've been until somebody starts to squeeze them into a kind of meat press, and then they're like, okay, that's enough. Most people, you have to give them so much pain before they'll change that it's just like, okay, well, just twist and twist and twist and twist until there's so much pain that people suddenly go, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
And so it's wonderful. How is I mean, you know, we talk about humanity waking up. I never saw it was going to happen like this.
Yeah.
Thought it might be a nuclear bomb, but who saw this coming? Not me.
No, I don't think anyone saw this coming. It's just I don't know if crazy is the right word, but unexpected. Sandhan, thank you so much for sharing your love and wisdom with us today. I've just really, really loved this conversation. If people want to find out more about you and how they can work with you or what you do, where should they go?
Easiest place is Facebook for now. I realize that Instagram is probably a place I need to go and experiment with. My daughter is an Instagram influencer.
Yeah.
And so she's saying, "Oh, Mum, you know, you're living with an influencer right now. You know, I can help you." If she could find like 3 minutes. So Monday, I'm actually going to set up my Instagram account. But if anyone wants to reach me, I'm Sandhan Johnson on Facebook. Send me a message, and I love meeting new people. So,
Yeah. Well, I'll have your details and any
thank
recommended
you.
resources on the show notes so people can reach out to you. Thank you once again.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
hardly dare stick my head out the door and see what it's like. Okay. And then just like a little mouse come out and like, okay, it's very quiet out there, so it must be okay for a
Oh,
minute or two.
awesome. So,
Thank you.
thank you. So, until next time, I love you. I believe in you, and you are worth taking that first step to the life of your dreams. Mwah.
Mm.